In the lore of intelligence, the Cold War began on September 5th, 1945. That's when a cipher clerk at the Soviet embassy in Ottawa named Igor Guzenko walked out with a bunch of documents that demonstrated that the Soviets had been spying on Canada and allies for years. The local RCMP processed this, they share it with the Americans and the British, and boom, the Cold War begins. 5 minutes ago, the Soviets were their allies against Germany, and now all bets are off, and here we go right into the Cold War. And it's a really, really big moment for Canadian intelligence, okay? We weren't huge players in intelligence during World War II. We had a few things going on, but not much. I mean, the British were really like the number one in that space, and we didn't really have a lot of intelligence capabilities developed throughout the war. So this is a big, big win for us. It kicks off modern Canadian intelligence. And I've never really asked myself this, but should have. Why? Why was the RCMP able to process Guzenko so spectacularly well? Because, like, you got somebody walks in off the street with a bunch of documents about somebody you thought was an ally 5 minutes ago. Like, this could have gone multiple ways. But it turns out that part of the reason they were able to deal with Guzenko effectively is because they got this dry run in 1942. So here's a crazy story. It's either about the worst spy in history who had a 12-hour career or a crazy German plot that happened on Canadian soil. So here's the story. This German U-boat, drops off this guy on the south shore of the Gaspé Peninsula. Okay, 1942. It's a town called New Carlisle, Quebec. It's across the water from New Brunswick. And he's got this cover story of being a Toronto businessman. He walks up into New Carlisle, into the hotel, probably the only hotel in town, and says, "Hey, I've just gotten off the bus. Do you have somewhere where I can rest?" Now, this is small town Quebec. It's 1942. There's probably one bus a day, and everybody in town knows when that bus comes. The bus hadn't come yet that day. Secondly, he's supposed to be a Toronto businessman who, like, honestly, even today, a Toronto businessman would stick out in New Carlisle, Quebec. He's got this really thick accent, even though he's supposed to be, like, from Toronto, local. And, he's using money that like hadn't been in circulation for decades. He's wearing clothes that have labels that aren't Canadian and can't really be obtained in Canada. So the young guy working at the hotel, his suspicions are raised. He's like, this doesn't feel right. And everybody on the coast had been kind of warned, like, pay attention, be aware, but it hadn't, we hadn't exactly been inundated with Germans getting off U-boats. So this guy, his name was Werner von Janowski. He was the Abwehr, from the Abwehr, which was German military intelligence. He's supposed to be now making his way to Montreal to drum up support for the Germans and identify communities that are German sympathizers in Montreal. He doesn't get that far because the guy at the hotel calls either the Sûreté to Quebec or the RCMP. It's a little bit unclear, but in any case, authorities get onto him right away. So von Janowski, gets on the train to go down to Quebec City. Authorities get on the train. They confront him. They're like, "Who are you really?" And he's like, "Oh my God, you caught me." And that's it. That's the sum total of his espionage career in Canada. Now, where does the crazy German plot thing come in? So instead of being the most inept spy in history, or one of, the theory was that maybe he was actually sent to Canada to be picked up as a double agent by the Canadians, so then he could be a triple agent for the Germans. Because that's technically what happened, as in the RCMP, when they got a hold of this guy, they were like, "Oh, we should make him a double agent." So that's what they tried to do. It was called Operation Watchdog. The problem was the RCMP had exactly zero experience, none, running a double agent. So this guy never even got a chance to be a triple agent. And also, I'm not sure that the theory that this big German plot is actually true, because for me, it's like Occam's razor. Simplest explanation is the best one. If the Canadians had never run a double agent up until that point, it seems a little far-fetched that German military intelligence would be like, go try to be a double agent for the Canadians so you can really be a triple agent for us. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but in any case, it doesn't matter. The real point of the story is that the RCMP realized that they couldn't do it. So Operation Watchdog was this kind of big failure. The British were very successful running double agents at this point, and they were just like to Canada, just like, please don't. we don't want you to screw up what we have going on here. So like, just don't do it. So what I think, this is the theory is what happened is that inspired the RCMP to be like, okay, like if we're going to be in the intelligence space, if we're going to keep up with our allies in this space and participate and contribute, we need to get more sophisticated here. So they started getting resources, developing tradecraft, their understanding, so that they would be prepared. If another German shows up in the Gaspé Peninsula, they're ready to go. Well, I don't think, as far as we know, there was another German on the Gaspé Peninsula. However, it's part of the reason why the RCMP was so ready and dealt with Igor Guzenko so effectively when he defected on September 5th, 1945. So I hope you enjoyed that story. A little bit of Canadian espionage lore. It was pretty interesting. If you have any questions or comments about it, please do let me know. Otherwise, I hope everyone is doing wonderful.